This episode is brought to you by SpruceOnTap.com. SpruceOnTap.com carries a variety of spruce tips, fir tips, juniper berries, and so much more for your brewing or culinary needs. SpruceOnTap.com provides the freshest products by harvesting them and immediately vacuum packaging and freezing them. Their products are never dried or dehydrated, ensuring that your order arrives tasting and smelling as fresh as the day they were harvested. SpruceOnTap.com ships out American-sourced, wild-harvested ingredients for people who celebrate craft beverages and the culinary arts. Listeners of our podcast can get 15% off your order of $25 or more when you use the promo code HHH at SpruceOnTap.com. Again, that's SpruceOnTap.com. Use promo code HHH and get 15% off any purchase of $25 or more. Thank you, SpruceOnTap.com, for supporting our podcast and better brewing. This episode is brought to you by Muntins Malts, a company that is passionate about providing premium malts to brewers worldwide. For over a century, Muntins has been a leading supplier of brewing and distilling malts, offering the finest British malted barley on the market. You can experience the difference Muntins offers by joining a recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club, because every kit that ships out now includes premium Muntins malt. You know, we've known the Muntins crew for a long time, and I can tell you, friend, you're going to love brewing with their grains. Ask your local supply shop to carry Muntins malts, or homebrewers can join our Trub Club at homebrewhappyhour.com/club, be a part of the community, and come brew with us. Thank you, Muntins, for supporting our efforts and homebrewers worldwide. Today's show is brought to you by Hopsdirect.com. Grown in the esteemed Yakima Valley on the Pewterball family farm, Hopsdirect.com offers the widest variety of hops available online at incredibly competitive pricing. It's simple. They grow hops, they sell hops, and they ship hops straight from their family-owned farm to your doorstep. Producing the highest quality hops is Hopsdirect.com's passion, and they're proud to be an independent grower in the craft beer industry. Go to Hopsdirect.com right now and get what you need to make your brew day better. That's Hopsdirect.com. Today's show is brought to you by Imperial Yeast. You hear us gushing over Imperial Yeast all the time, and that's because their yeast performs for us in every batch that we brew. Imperial Yeast is adored by commercial breweries and home brewers alike. Their pitch-right pouches are jam-packed with over 200 billion fresh yeast cells, guaranteed to deliver flawless, fast fermentations every time. Imperial Yeast strains are grown by a team of pro brewers and home brewers who live to help other brewers learn more and ferment better. Join any recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club and get a free upgrade to premium Imperial Yeast with every recipe kit that ships out to you. Learn more at homebrewhappyhour.com/club and come brew with us.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Proper carbonation for style and serving, best practices for beer lines, and when to replace gaskets in your faucet. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 355. Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. And if you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com, click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or even better, call it in, leave a voicemail. I'll use that voicemail on a future episode, and you'll get a $25 gift card to catconnection.com when you use our hotline at 325-305-6107. I am one of your hosts, Joshua Stubing, joined as always by the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com down there, Mr. James Carlson, as well as the President and Chief Keg Washer of catconnection.com, Mr. Grizzly Adams. Mr. Todd Burns, my apologies. It's so hard to tell who you are right now with just that manly beard. Gentlemen, Welcome to the show.
Feliz Dia de los Muertos.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, that I always is that today or today's All Saints Day? I get the days mixed up.
No, today's Dia de los Muertos.
I like you know what? People are going to think we're using AI. That's real Todd Burns Spanish right there. It is. Okay, perfect. Well, today's my wife's birthday is what I know it as. And I totally missed James' birthday like 2 weeks ago. Happy belated.
Oh, yeah, just another day.
You never make a big deal about it, and that's why I always forget it.
Well, wait a minute. Isn't your birthday this day after your wife's?
Mine is tomorrow. Yeah, mine's tomorrow. Yeah. So
I'm glad you said something. I thought I had it in my...
I put like 19 reminders on your phone. How dare you?
I haven't seen it yet. It'll probably start coming up tomorrow.
It probably will, right in the morning. I think I put, if it was me and I had your phone, I set one for like 7 a.m., 7:05 a.m., 7:10 a.m., 7:30 a.m. Absolutely. And your wife,
I was gonna add your birthday on this. It right above that is the pronoun. So what pronoun do you want? Because it's got a box for that.
At home and brewer. That's my
It shows you how to do it.
I like it.
Mine's dude. As you know, mine's dude.
Yes, he actually. Todd's been using that one for many years. When Todd learned about pronouns, he really was like, "Okay, mine's dude, duder."
Yeah, because I didn't realize this until I read about it a couple years ago. But you can basically create your own. So I've created.
You can. It's great. Yeah, living in 2023 is the best time ever to be alive.
Oh yeah.
I am. Not to put anyone uncomfortable, but if y'all can't tell, I am transitioning into a 1980s Russian gopnik. I've got my tracksuit top on. Someone's gonna actually get offended because I said I don't know if gopnik is okay anymore to say. I know it was when I was a teenager because that was like a style. People wearing the tracksuit, trying to look like a.
I have never heard that term in my life. I have to look it up.
It's
gopnik.
I know exactly what that is.
Delinquent subculture in Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, and other former Soviet republics.
Yes, brother.
Yeah, all the Eastern Bloc.
All the Eastern Bloc boys look like that. Well, they have that. What do you call like the Joe Rogan or like the old Irish looking hat? I don't have.
I just Googled it, and it's a picture of a Asian looking Russian guy wearing that jacket.
Yeah, well, I hate to tell. I think a lot of Eastern Bloc people are pseudo Asian too. This is not a geography podcast or world history or world culture podcast. Dragon Lady 1, don't leave another bad review on us. I'm sorry. I'll get us back on topic. I'm going to give y'all a spoiler for April Fools. I was going to use AI because we have access to this AI generator, and I was going to do an interview with Dragonfly Lady 1, my favorite 1-star review on Apple Podcast. I also was this close to making shirts for myself of her review, but no one would get it, and I didn't want to spend like the $20 on the shirt.
What was the review?
Because it was
I remember, but I can't remember exactly what she said.
Paraphrasing, she was like, "How do they get sponsors? They're garbage. Here's a snippet of what they talked about. I'm married to a white woman, so I can speak on their behalf." Like 15 minutes of 12-year-old locker talk.
That on a t-shirt, though? And
why would I put the review on a t-shirt?
No, how do you put that?
I was going to take the screenshot of her.
I'll buy
review.
one.
You want one too?
Yeah.
Okay, deal. Hey, James, you want one too? You're so tall. I always forget. Are you large or extra large?
Extra large.
I like the idea of having the 5 stars with one highlighted and then the review under it, and then Homebrew Happy Hour on the top. I like that.
Okay, deal. Maybe I'll make the.
It kind of sums up our podcast.
Here's the thing. She wasn't wrong.
Right. No,
yeah.
absolutely not.
I really wish, and here's how goofy.
It's just that most of our listeners would have said the same thing, but given us a 5-star review.
Based on the same thing. You're right. Yeah.
So that's Marcy listening.
That's right.
What you're saying.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then the other 1 stars, one was when I made some offhand comment about COVID. We don't got to go into that. And then the other guy was the one who we ruined his run. He was like, "Not worth the time. They ruined my evening jog." Good. First off, you loser.
Jogging is bad for you.
Jogging.
I'm glad we saved you from that.
Jogging's one step below cyclist. No, I'm just trying to piss everybody off that might be in our audience. Anyways, I got the.
I'm a big fan of cyclists just Everybody on the show is against. So yeah.
I just don't. In Central Texas, they're everywhere.
Wearing that jacket, you would be for
this
any
is like a tennis
sport
jacket. Look,
on
Wilson. Wilson, I think was baseball gloves too. They made, but I always
definitely tennis.
I always associated Wilson with tennis. But
I just assumed it was all tennis. Yeah.
Your daughter gave me this jacket because she thrifted it. I think up there in Brownwood.
Probably, yeah.
Someone died, and the family took this to the thrift shop.
some guy from the 70s.
Yeah, he didn't update his wardrobe for 50 years. Anyways, I do have some.
Well, he was 30 in the 70s, so he was like 80. Yeah,
exactly. This is a dad's jacket from the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah. Anyways,
I have small talk. Relevant.
Oh God, I thought that was a small talk.
No,
I
have relevant small talk. So we do have announcement. We had our alt pull call 2023 last week. We had a blast. Our buddy Wes of the former head brewmaster of the former Teddy's Brew House came to join us. James and Todd, as well as myself, judged all your entries. And let me put it back on us. I do have, if you weren't watching that, oh, look, you can see a reflection of my filthy office in that thing. I'm going to put the trophy down. You can, all the results are available on our social media and stuff, but I do want to say congratulations, the grand winner, Brian Garrity. He's our grand champion. Our first runner-up, second place, was Mark Ronnie, and our third place, Chris Darling. Now, those names might sound familiar. Chris Darling got third place in our last Kolsch Cup that we did earlier this year. So the guy has got it dialed down, his German hybrids. Mark Ronnie, I don't know if he's ever entered. He's in our Trub Club. I would love to think this was the recipe kit we shipped him, which is your recipe, James. I would love to think that that was his was your absolute favorite alt you had over both days. You made sure we knew that. You were like, that's the one. That's the winner, and then democracy happened, and I apologize for that.
Yeah, it was delicious.
You literally said, I mean, you had the highest praise for that for his entry.
Yeah, I nailed it. Just nailed it.
That's why I hope.
But I will say that everybody, I was so surprised.
Oh yeah,
pleasantly surprised at how good every entry was. I mean, it was hard to judge. So the people out there, I got some feedback from people that kind of wanting a little more detail. But I can't stress this enough. They were really good all beers.
And I haven't shipped their scorecards out yet. So I read most of what everyone wrote. And for the most part, Todd was the only one on some of them. On overall, you didn't add any, but you added on the other parts where it mattered. On the overall, you just be like, great job. But James, you did good feedback. So anyone who knows James judged their beer, if you're watching day one or day two, the notes in your scorecards, those are going out along with your shirts. They're going out in the next couple weeks when I come up. I
was amazed at how consistent our scores were on some beers and how utterly different they were on other beers.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like it was. I think we did ours live. No other competition that I know of does it live, like official ones, like BJCP
we didn't
ones.
Do it live.
No, pardon me. I mean, we recorded the whole process. You're right. We didn't do it live. I mean, though, can you think of another competition where you can watch them judging and discussing your beer as they're doing it? And by real time, I mean, like, you know what I mean? Nobody else does that. I think that happens with probably it's not that we were necessarily injecting total bias as much as you're allowed a bias within a style. Alt beer isn't an exact science of it's going to end up like Schlussel every time. It could end up like Fuchsen or Schumacher or Oettinger. You know what I mean? You drink all four of those blind taste tests, they're in the realm of alt, but they're across the spectrum. So, yeah, you can't eliminate personal bias completely from the judging process. So if we were to get any flack for that, I would hope people would say, go scrutinize your local actual accredited BJCP, see if they'll let you watch it and discuss the
Why
style.
Would we get
No, I just mean if people were because like you're saying,
do we don't care.
We're not caring, but having a response is not mutually exclusive.
Okay.
I'm always ready. But I didn't get to also give props to Brian Garrity. He was our inaugural Kolsch Cup 2021 winner. And I don't even think he entered Kolsch Cup 2023, and we didn't do a Kolsch Cup 2022. So I'd say Brian absolutely has his German hybrids dialed in. I was shocked that I knew some of the entries, especially some of y'all who submitted labels that are recognizable. I was like, I know whose that is. But for the most part, 95% of the entries, I didn't look at the entry numbers until it was time to submit the scores and all that and look it up. And when we were tallying up and I saw the highest score, who is that? No way, Brian Garrity again. So he's either repackaging our favorite commercial examples of these beers, or the guy just knows how to brew German hybrids, which that's the dream, right, James? Brewing solid German beer.
I think he kind of knows how to brew beer.
I think he knows. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm more bummed that he said he's not sure if his wife is going to let him display this trophy next to the other big one in the front room. Brian, I'm not sending it until I get confirmation from your wife that it goes in the front room proudly for everyone else to see. Anyway, so yeah, all
But if he won the trophy, can he just put it wherever he wants?
Yeah, he can. Yeah, I know. Yeah, ultimately, Todd, he does whatever he wants. We're adults; we do whatever we want. So yeah,
he may want it in his bathroom. You never know.
That is true. He may want it in his bathroom. Is there some kind of correlation you're insinuating there between our competition and the bathroom?
No.
Okay, good. And then also wanted to give a thanks. I should have brought the care package in here. I already opened it up. Fieldheads Coffee sent a care package for my pop and I, full of delicious roasted coffee beans that they do up there in Montana. I think on a few other episodes I said Minnesota, maybe. It's Montana. I've already had some cups of their coffee. It's incredible. I'm bringing a bag down there for the office, or maybe for the barn for opening weekend. We could drink some premium coffee, Todd. It tasted real good. My dad and I next week are going to brew our breakfast stout, the Imperial Coffee Stout. That batch, we're going to have a keg for James. We're going to have a keg for Todd.
Cool.
And we'll have a keg for us. We actually still have some left from last year's batch, and we even have some left from the years before aging in my fridge. I told my dad, while we're brewing, we should do a taste test of all the batches that we have lined up, just to see like a comparison, how they've aged and what we like about some and not others. James, I'd argue a style like Imperial Coffee Stout ages good. Like it's not a style.
I think so. Yeah.
Right. It's not like a hazy where, oh my God, in 24 months later. No, we don't want to drink that because it loses the aroma probably and all that from the hops. But I think an Imperial Coffee Stout is one of those that you can age forever. In fact, I think people do that, right? With the commercial versions of like KBS or and all those other Imperial delicious stouts.
I think so. Yeah.
So we're going to, I told my dad, we'll see. We don't even have a day that we're going to brew, but that is coming up. And then, like I said, the what I mentioned earlier, opening weekend coming up. Boss man, do you got plenty of beer on tap, or is it going to be a whiskey only weekend for me again?
Oh yeah. You can only drink whiskey this weekend.
James,
that's the rule.
Did you hear that story where, was it last year or 2 years ago? I think it was 2 years ago. I made that mistake. I went in, opened the first night, and Todd was like, "Can I pour your beer?" And I said, "No, tonight is whiskey only." And that's the last thing I remember about that night. It was a bad.
It's a rough night for you.
It was a rough. The music, was it okay? I normally play music. I don't remember if the music.
Yeah, you played music.
Yeah, it sounded okay.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Maybe this year will be a whiskey only first night. We'll see. But anyways, that's the feedback. I do have 3 voicemails because the first voicemail is, it's time for listener feedback. We do have listener feedback, and it's our buddy Dan with feedback about the Christmas ale recipe kit that we just shipped out for October Trub Club members.
Hey guys, this is Dan from New Jersey. I just have some feedback about the Christmas ale recipe Todd made. It sounds really great, but I think the name's got to change. I think this sounds more like a Festivus ale, you know, a nice beer you could have after completing the feats of strength, or a really nice beer just to drink while you're airing your grievances with your family. Think about what you think and let me know, but Festivus ale sounds really good. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.
I like the feedback, one, because it reminds me to air some grievances now. Todd, next time you come up with the recipe, quit making it so complicated. That was, hands down, the most involved I've ever been, like bagging the spices, and which the spice bag was the ginger root and the cinnamon stick and the bitter orange peel and then the spruce tips, weighing and bagging those, and then all the various hops you included. It is the most elaborate recipe I think you've concocted, boss.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I made life difficult for you.
When I was up there and complaining, he goes, "You should wait till the next recipe," cracking his knuckles. And
I think the important thing here is that it's not. It was really made for the people in the Trub Club to enjoy. And if it takes a little effort on your end, I think that they're all willing to allow you to take that extra effort.
You are making me the bad guy, and I how dare you complain about people? They are giving us their hard-earned money, and you're complaining about having to make a recipe kit for them. No, it just took me way longer than I thought it would. I spent a whole day bagging all the extras. I was like, oh my God, I'm either really slow, which isn't out of the question, or this is a lot to bag. I think just a little bit of both. But we don't have a finalized November kit yet. That'll be out by next week's episode. Today is November 1st that we're recording this, so give us a week. But members at patreon.com/homebrew happy hour will be the first ones to know. So if you're subscribed over there in a recipe receiving tier, you'll get that notification probably by Monday, if I had to guess. And then on next week's episode, next Thursday, the 9th, we'll officially announce it on the show, what we're brewing. It's going to be another delicious kit. We're trying to end the year on I say trying to end the year. Every month I say this and every month I mean it. We are trying to curate the most premium, delicious brews that we want to make ourselves. Like, these are kits that, for the most part, we want to make. I'm not sure I was convinced on the Christmas sale, but I'm excited for Todd to do it and have it on tap. That'll be fun. But we're doing recipes that we enjoy. They're styles that we are proud of, or the recipes that we're proud of. And obviously, thanks to our sponsors, Muntins, hopsdirect.com, and Imperial, we're able to provide y'all with the premium ingredients so that these kits truly can arrive to you with fresh ingredients, and you can brew exactly what we want to brew. So with that being said, Dan, thank you for your feedback. This is a great reminder that if and when you call 325-305-6107 and you leave a voicemail, and I use that voicemail on a future episode, you get yourself a $25 gift card to ketconnection.com. Kind of like our first question. It is a voicemail, and it's our buddy Adam from Florida.
Hey, Josh, James, and Todd. Y'all are awesome. Quick question here. When y'all were talking about carbonation recently, first of all, I'd like to see Todd's newer method of how he force carbonates his beer. That is going to be cool. Secondly, isn't there a difference between the amount of volumes of CO2 that a beer is supposed to have? Like, say, for example, I brew a triple. Well, there's supposed to be a lot more dissolved CO2 in the beer than other styles. And then my serving pressure is totally different compared to that, meaning like my serving pressure is not the equilibrium point of what my beer is carbonated at, correct? If so, I want to get my head around that because, sometimes you put your keg on serving pressure, you shake it around or whatever, but it's not as carbonated as you'd like it to be. So you up it a little bit and then you back down the pressure. And it seems like you got it kind of right where there's a good bit of CO2 in there. Thanks a lot for your time on this. Have a great week, guys. Bye.
Adam, that's a great question. Now, James, I say this all the time. I think
you're asking me a carbonation question.
No. I'm just where I'm going with it. It's relevant for you. I promise. I always say it's the best time ever to be alive, and why I say that right now again, the second time on this episode, we have like a cheat sheet carbonation chart that, for the style, you can see the volume and all that needed, and you can blast force carb, which is what we do to achieve that. It'll tell you the temperature the liquid needs to be and all that. And then serving PSI is pretty just standard for us because we're not tailoring it to necessarily style. And by us, I mean me specifically. Like I almost always am at 9 to 11 PSI, like around 10. 10's a safe number for me, whether it's an English mild or a Kolsch. I'm not super particular on that being precise, but would you agree that the chart is the best cheat sheet to achieving the volumes in the liquid and how to achieve it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Especially if you're like me, I tend to overcarbonate everything. So a carbonation chart works really well. It'll tell you how long, at what temperature, and what pressure to achieve a certain volume of CO2. And it's a really good tool to have.
I like that you were surprised I threw it to you first, just because I wasn't trying.
That's always a Todd question.
I wasn't trying to get you to admit that but Todd has, I guess, given us complexes because you've sometimes overcarbonated. And so now I always undercarbonate his beer that I bring up to him, because I know he's going to get that CMB event faucet out, which I'll put the link in the show notes, guys, because that is like one of the few products I think every single person who kegs should absolutely own. And I don't just say that because I work for CM Becker International, as much as it is the most handy forced carbonating tool ever created. And so, Todd, I'm going to throw it to you again and talk about how, one, we do need to record your newer method, which would include the beer faucet, but you did change some things from that first video that we published 3 or 4 years ago. So talk about how you're forced carbonating, how you determine the carbonation level for that style, and so on.
Yeah, I thought we did a new one showing how we did one a long time ago.
Well, like 3 or 4 years.
Where I do it for like 5 minutes, but yeah. I don't know. I'd have to look at the video. I thought we had done a second one already.
No, we've never recorded an updated version of it. You can describe it, and then we can put it on the old to-do list.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's kind of hard to find things sometimes on the Homebrew Happy Hour, but if you search for carbonation chart, because I notice if you search for carbonation, it's several pages in, but if you search for carbonation chart, it'll bring that up. And that whole article, I know we worked a lot with Lorena on that article, and I think it's really a good article, not because it's totally in depth, but because it's simple. We keep it fairly simple on that article. We have the chart, and it's easy to use. And so what I do typically is, he's absolutely right. You do have different carbonation levels for different beers. Some people really get into that. Some people, like most of us, don't necessarily get into it to the level that we should.
Right.
We tend to just run everything at a similar PSI, and I've kind of come to 11 PSI as being that PSI because it's somewhere between 10 and 12. So 11 happens to be somewhere between 10 and 12. So that's kind of where I shoot for. Like this, the beer that you're making for Christmas, arguably, maybe that should be at a lower carbonation level or volumes of carbonation. And I think that's the most confusing thing to people is everybody likes to talk about volumes or, the level of the carbonation, which is what that chart shows you. But in the end, all that really is a carbonation level that will be maintained at a particular temperature with a particular PSI going to it. So you don't have to really overthink it if you just think like 38 degrees, 11 PSI is going to be kind of an average beer. Most beers are going to be served around that level of carbonation. So if you want it less than that, then you would obviously just not carbonate it as much, and then you would have it at whatever that temperature is. Sometimes with some of these beers, like the style that you're going to be doing for Christmas, you may want to serve that in a warmer temperature and then have it at a lower carbonation level. And those two things are related, because if it's at a warmer temperature, it's going to be more bubbly because it's being served warmer. So you have it at a lower PSI. I don't know if bubbly is the right word, but
bubbly's
that
probably not the right word.
Feel on your tongue, I guess.
Yeah.
So in the end, I think you can really delve into this, and you can have this beer served at 8 psi, this beer served at 16 psi, this beer served at 12 psi, or you could go for kind of a happy medium, and if you don't want to have a whole bunch of different regulator bodies and everything else, and then come up with a level of carbonation that you want, and use that.
Yeah, a couple of things. The Christmas beer he's talking about is not the Chub Club one, guys. He's talking about the breakfast stout my pop and I are doing specifically. Yeah. But the of the three of us, though, I will say although you just said, and I know from opening your kegerator, for the most part, you're happy with that 11 PSI for all your beer. If people go back and watch the video of your teaser build, they'll notice it, because you blatantly pointed it out, you did install 4 or 5 secondaries in case.
2.
Is it only 2?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you have wait a second. You have a dual body in there? I could have sworn on the wall.
Yeah,
I
but
thought it
dual
was more
body.
than that.
I thought it was more than
No,
that too. Okay. I haven't watched the video obviously in forever.
So, but what might be confusing you is some of those have Ys coming off of them.
That might be what it is. Okay.
So,
I don't know why I thought you had more.
there's two regulators, but they are dual bodies, but they have Ys coming off of them, because it basically allows me to I have a pressure going to basically all the I have one regulator that's serving just the air distributor.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then that one could also the other, basically I'm able to do 2 different pressures inside besides the one that's on the air distributor, and then I can also jump one of those up for forced carbonating by turning it off and just running it to the other line.
Okay. I don't know why I thought it was, but my point being, you did future-proof your setup just in case you had a style that you wanted on a different PSI, like much lower probably.
Yeah. And I have done some styles. I mean, I have done things where I put them on different pressures. A good example would be the mead. So the mead is only at about 2 PSI, because really all I'm trying to do is push it out. I don't really want to carbonate it. So it's mainly just for serving. And then what's another example? For a while, I did serve your beer at a lower carbonation level, but I kind of gave up on that because it's been there for a year now. And
wait, you still have breakfast out in there?
I have a very tiny bit in a keg, but it's not it's not actually in the kegerator right now. It's in the fridge.
Oh, okay. Well, we could put it on tap for opening week.
Yeah, I'm going to try to put everything that's in the fridge on tap to get as many beers as we can. But we've got that Kolsch, and I think that'll be real popular.
Oh, it's so good. Your latest batch of Kolsch is so good.
It is awesome.
And then the British Mild, and that's been real popular. So we've got 2 beers that will probably get floated this weekend. Your
friends don't like my breakfast stout, so you could put it on tap and it won't get floated unless you and I do that.
No. Right.
Yeah. Which, have I mentioned, I don't like your friends, so it works out. They don't like my
I don't really care for them either, so yeah.
But where I was also going with that you future-proofed it is much easier for 99% of us homebrewers to control the pressure our beer is dispensing by implementing dual bodies or implementing secondaries than it is to manipulate temperature for different styles, because not a lot of us have multiple fridges, right? So it's easier to accomplish the varying PSI than it would be to varying temperature. But all that to say, and I'm surprised, Todd, you actually dragged that question out more than I did. I have nothing more to drag it out with. It was all relevant. You did my job for me. All that to say, though, I'll link to that carbonation chart in the show notes, because I do think that is the most important tool of answering this question, that you can see how many volumes you want your beverage to be at, what temperature you need the liquid to be at, and how much PSI you need to blast at it to achieve that. But before we do wrap it up, can you explain briefly what's changed? Like, how are you forced carbonating to your beers today that would vary from that video we published a few years ago?
I mean, I would have to watch the video, because I thought we had already covered that. So I'm still skeptical of what you're saying.
Okay, so then how do you force carb? Just explain that. You don't have to explain the differences.
So what I do is I will typically force carb for about I'll jump it up to 40, 45 PSI. I put it on my knees sitting down, and I rock the keg back and forth pretty, I don't know if violently is the right word, but I go vigorously back and forth for about a minute, and then I'll check it with with our event faucet and see where it is, and then I will put it back on my knee and do it for another 30 seconds again, checking it between each time. And I may even go down to like 15 seconds until I get it to the point where it's almost carbonated to the level where I want it. and then I stop. I put it in the kegerator. I put it at that level, which is typically about 11 psi, and I leave it there and let it finish there, because it's usually done within a day or less. And it's so close that I could just drink it right then.
An important step you kind of overlooked, and I want to include it, or an important question part of that. What is the temperature ideally you want that beer to be in the keg while you're forced carbing?
Same temperature you would serve it at, somewhere in that 36 to 38 degrees. I mean, if you get it colder than that, it works great, but it will go faster. So just be aware of that.
Colder,
if it's warmer than that, it's going to go slower. So you may have, and that's what happens a lot of times is you're finished and you've transferred the beer into the keg and it was cold, but while I've been transferring 3 different kegs, it starts to warm up. So maybe it's 40 degrees or 45 or even 50 degrees at that point. And you just have to keep in mind that it's going to take longer to force carbonate at that higher temperature, because forced carbonating happens faster in relation to the colder the temperature
of the beer. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. Which is also we have so many.
So just to be clear, it doesn't matter if your beer's not cold. You can still force carbonate. It's just going to take longer.
Yes, that is an important clarification. Thank you, Mr. Burns. And thank you, Adam, for submitting that question. A great time to remind y'all, if and when you leave a voicemail at 325-305-6107, and we use it on a future episode, you get yourself a $25 gift card to kegconnection.com. However, if you go to homebrewhappyhour.com and use that submit a question link at the top of the page, or you text our hotline, and I use it on a future episode, you still get yourself a $15 gift card to Keg Connection, which I think is pretty good. Like our second question of the show comes from our buddy Ron, and he texted me saying, simple question for you. Do you sanitize your beer lines when cleaning, or do you only rinse the brew clean out of them? My buddy believes in sanitizing after cleaning, and I think that is an extra step not needed. Thanks, Ron. Todd, confession, and you can run me over with the bus if need be, and I won't edit it out. I don't sanitize my beer lines. I don't think we ever have. We run the solution through them. We get them real clean. Then we rinse all that stuff out with clean water. And that's the most I've ever done. Have I been doing it wrong this whole time?
No, that's exactly what I do. I mean, I was actually at the Great American Beer Festival one time, and there was a guy in one of the booths, and he was finished. He kind of cleaned the lines up and then sanitized them. I'm like, why? I mean, you ran clean water through them, and now you're going to run beer through them. That beer that you're running through there is not going to get infected with something as it's passing from the keg through the hose into your glass and into your stomach. I mean, it's not. It's fine. You don't really need to sanitize the lines after you've cleaned them. You can just clean them and rinse them with clean water, and that's fine.
James,
next question. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think
that's what I do.
I think the misnomer is, though, Todd, because we're like, oh, we don't want our beer touching potential bacteria or whatever in the line. But like you just said, it's such a brief interaction. Like, obviously.
So do these same people, do they always take a solution of sanitizer and sanitize their beer glass before they pour the beer in it?
Oh, that's a... yeah, I like your little snotty trying to prove a point.
That was snotty, wasn't it? I'm proud of that. That was really snotty.
Do you always sanitize your beer glass before you pour it in? That's going to be my go-to. And so, well, people, I guess there is such thing as being overly hygienic or overly anxious about hygiene. I don't know if you can be overly hygienic with your beer and your equipment as much as thinking about when it matters and when it doesn't. There's an old video we did on Keg Connection's YouTube before Homebrew Happy Hour, I think, was even a thing, of you transferring in your kitchen from secondary. And you had made a comment on there, Todd, about like how you cleaned everything and the keg's obviously sanitized, but you're not super concerned because it's alcohol at this point. And so infection would have happened. Like it's not happening during.
That's a very important point. Yeah. You're transferring a beer with alcohol in it. Yeah. So,
yeah. And so that's,
most infections happen, in fermentation before you build up alcohol.
Right. But again, the sanitizing, worry about like the vessel your beer's going to be in, that keg. Yes, worry about making sure that thing is very clean and very you're going to argue that? You don't think the keg, you're not super
I sanitize my keg before I put the final beer in it, and every time I do it, I'm like, this is probably a waste of time.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Really? Interesting, huh?
But I do it because why not? I've already got I'm always got sanitizing solution made up anyway because I've been doing other things and transferring and all this. But yeah, I would be willing sometime as an experiment to transfer my final beer into a keg that I'd clean with water and not sanitize it because I don't think it would make any difference.
And because if it did make a difference, that's the keg you're going to give me. So
exactly.
I know where you're going with this. No, I haven't contributed. Let me get.
But I do sanitize my keg before I put the beer in. But I kind of like. I usually think to myself, I probably don't need to do this.
That's hilarious, James. What do you worry about sanitizing? You sanitize your kegs, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just because it's what I've always done.
But you're with Todd in regards to like, I probably don't.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's got alcohol in it. There's probably no reason why you should do it.
Yeah,
just a good scrub and rinse, and I think you're fine. But I'm a creature of habit. I've always done it that way, and I'll always do it that way.
And I'm glad you included the part about cleaning because we're not advocating, guys. That's a whole different episode, and maybe we need to get Rick back on the show because I don't think Jonathan Etley works anymore for the people who make Iodophor, but Rick is still doing chemical stuff, I think. But either way, we need a chemical guy on the show because there is a difference between cleaning and sanitizing. Sometimes, Todd, people conflate that. Where I've been on Reddit before, and I don't ever write on Reddit on the subreddit. I know, guys, y'all, not huge fans of me, whatever. But there are people who conflate it all the time, where they're like, I used Star Sand, and they don't clean, they just sanitize, and then they're like, what? There's still gunk or this or that, because sanitizers don't clean. They don't get rid of beer stone. They don't get rid. All it is killing the bacteria on the surface. And then, you let it air dry, whatever. But you don't rinse them. The cleaning part, like I've seen gunky kegs that you've gotten. It's been a long time. The kegs you've been getting in, Todd, have been actually in phenomenal condition.
Have been, yeah.
But in years past,
those new ones that we have in, they're so clean already. We don't have to do anything.
Yeah, not like 13 years ago pulling a dead rat drenched in soda from a keg. And I've seen, though, an hour-long brew clean completely clear that up and then full rinse out, full sanitize, boom, using that keg. I think you specifically use that keg to prove a point, like that these things can be cleaned and sanitized from the nastiest of nasties. But my point being, if you had just filled that keg up with Sand Step and then rinsed it and that, you got the rat out, obviously, you're not going to probably get any of that gunk out. It's just going to be sanitized gunk at that point.
If there's a rat in there, I'd want to clean it really well. I wouldn't want to just sanitize it. I'd want to use a good cleaner. And I would, once it's cleaned really well and sanitized really well, I don't give a rat's ass if there was a rat in there.
Right. Ha, 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 ha. Hold on. Do I have the, no. Nope. Okay, there we go.
There you go. That's the best one. Yeah.
We do need a laugh track for you. Oh, Todd. Anyways,
wow, I get a lot more laughter if you use that more often.
We should do an episode with not that laugh. I'll get like the Seinfeld laugh track and do a whole episode. Anyways, I think that's about it, Ron. And this is going to be a question I love because it'll get feedback. If you're watching at youtube.com/Homebrew Happy Hour, let me know in the comments below how you clean, how you sanitize. Do you worry about sanitizing your beer lines? And if you do, why? I'd love to know. I'd love to have some counter information to what Todd has been saying on the show. And anyone else, you can obviously call it in as feedback at 325-305-6107 or text it or whatever. We would love to hear your thoughts on that. And Ron, thank you so much for submitting that question. My friends, we have one final question for this show. It is a voicemail at our hotline, 325-305-6107. It's our buddy Kurt from Connecticut.
Hello, gentlemen. Quick question that I had. I recently broke down my faucets. I have some Perlick flow controls. Broke them down completely and cleaned them in an ultrasonic cleaner. which I tend to do every, year to 18 months if I get lazy. But when I did that, I realized I've had the faucets for 7 years, and I decided to order brand new O-rings for every piece of rubber or silicone that was in the faucet, just to kind of be, I guess, preventative and not to deal with any leaks down the road, because that's not fun. But anyway, just curious on your opinion. Is that something that's good to do every, say, 5 years, 10 years, or not at all until you get a failure? All right. Thanks a lot. I love the show.
Kurt, great question. I was Googling real quick ultrasonic cleaners because those sound more elaborate. They actually can be pretty affordable from what I just
it's pretty common in the car restoration business.
Is it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially if you're doing carburetors. Those are invaluable tools.
I bet those are much large. For all the little pieces, so they don't have to be massive. Mm. They can be.
Yeah, carburetors aren't typically very big. So
okay, I know next to nothing, James, about vehicles and cars. But
Josh is a real expert on carburetors, though.
I am. Yeah, is that the one where you spray the thing in it?
You watched us fix a carburetor on a 4-wheeler last time when Stefan and
I was watching TV while y'all were fixing the car. Do you not remember?
That's right. Never mind. Sorry,
because y'all were out there and you're like, "Hey, you want to do some man stuff?" And I was like, "Have I ever?" And you're like, "Yeah, good point." And then
you were like, "I'm watching men wrestle each other." I was
watching men wrestle each other. It was sumo, I think. I was catching up.
Rather large men with no clothes on, barely.
Yeah. We've gone over my questionable choices. With the November tournament's coming up, I can't wait. Every episode, I'm just be wearing my favorite sumo shirts. It's a good question, James. Talking about laugh tracks, I should have a boo track because the second I heard Perlick, I saw your face. He went.
If he's got a Perlick and it's that old, probably just need to throw it away and order a C. Becker faucet. That's my suggestion. Good day. Good podcast. I'll talk to you.
Yeah, talk to y'all later. I'll see you later. That's right. You did this.
No, it's
obviously we obviously kidding. But like you said, I will say, so the flow controls, sometimes the internal, they tend to leak more when we get unbiased feedback, or you go look at even Amazon reviews or whatever, they can leak. So would you agree maintenance on the parts may vary depending on the dependability of the faucet? Like you may have.
Any faucet, good preventative maintenance, clean it up. If you feel like you need to replace the O-rings, do it. I mean, that's the one thing about Perlicks they got lots of seals and O-rings. So, and I think Cat Connection is pretty good about keeping all those in stock if you need them. That plug being out of the way, there's nothing wrong with doing that. I mean, if you feel like it needs to be done, do it.
I mean, as Keg Connection, we absolutely love Perlick faucets because we sell more O-rings for Perlick faucets than any other faucet
we do
out there. And I think what Perlick's notorious for is dripping, because in the design they have I know not everybody's watching this, but they have a little piece that kind of goes like this, and it hits a seal, or it's got a ball on it and it seals on the end, but it doesn't seal the same all the way around. It puts more pressure on the bottom than it does the top, or vice versa. Whereas with a C. Becker forward seal faucet, because they're both forward seal, it actually has a shaft, and that shaft has an O-ring, and then that pushes against a machine surface, and it's equal all the way around with the O-ring. So the problem that you see with Perlicks is that one O-ring fails a lot because it gets compressed more on one side than the other, and then it starts to drip. So that's the reason with Perlicks you tend to. I'm shocked. Well, I don't know what model he had, but on a 525 Perlick in particular, a lot of people have to replace that one O-ring every few months.
I was going to say
it drips constantly.
I was going to say we get people who reorder like biannually, and I mean that's twice a year.
Yeah. But now the 625s are a little better on that, but they still tend to have that O-ring replaced, and then the rest of the O-rings don't give out as much. James, on the forward sealed C. Becker faucets, we've literally had people call us and want O-rings for them because they've had them for 10 years and they feel like they had to replace the O-rings, but they're actually not leaking. And so if you keep O-rings well lubed and they're always pretty much in the dark, they do fine. A keg's a great example of that, in that the keg O-rings on the post O-rings, you have to replace those fairly regularly, particularly if you ever have them drying out the sun and they get ultraviolet light of any kind, then they tend to crack over time. Whereas the internal O-ring where the dip tube is, I've seen those that I know are probably 20, 30 years old and they still work. So,
well, and that's why
dry. I mean, they've been
right
in the dark the whole time.
Well, and that's why, like he says at the end, or is it just something I should do at failure? Yes, that's for me. That's my opinion. Keep the stuff in stock. It's always good to have at least a handful of gaskets for all your keg lid, your post, your faucets, all that. It's good to have bins of gaskets. That way, when it fails, you're ready. And I would argue a tube of lube. I call it keg lube, but I forget the actual name of what
keg lube. Yeah,
keg lube. It'll last you forever. It will last because it doesn't take a lot to grease these things and put them on. But to failure, call me lazy, guys. But I don't want to preventatively add gaskets and go through that whole process until I have to. But I will ask James, if you're replacing one gasket because of failure, do you think go ahead and just do them all? That way they're all on the same schedule, or is that again just
not necessarily, because some O-rings get stressed, like the one Todd's talking about, the seat. The Perlics are unusual because the part that seals against that rubber O-ring is actually the faucet lever, and it's got a smooth ball machined in the bottom of that lever. So I had one, and I lost a half a keg of beer because it just dripped, and I had left, and it just dripped the whole time I was gone. And I think Todd is right that it pushed it. When it seals, it's sealing tighter on one side, which is the bottom and not the top. The thing that's unique about our faucets, the Sim Beckers, we just have one internal valve, and it floats in there, and the lever is connected to it with a knuckle joint. So it's not side loading that internal valve. So that internal valve is allowed to freely float in the center of the faucet body. So it's sealing equally all the way around. So we don't do we do have the parts. If you need to replace like a V3S, that's our most common popular beer faucet that we sell, you really only have one part inside. You have some friction washers and white sealing washers. Those typically don't go out. That internal valve sometimes over time can accumulate, because it's a creamer. It can accumulate particles inside in the creamer function when you open it up, and it can possibly drip. But you're only talking about replacing one part.
Yeah.
So
and like Todd
it's
said,
really, really simple.
And like Todd, I've seen y'all where you specifically, James, you're the king of like reminding people. So I remember this conversation specifically that Todd was referring to was about someone wanting to replace the gaskets just because it's been time. And you're like, no, you don't need to. But I remember a brewery calling you and they're like, hey, we have V10s, I think it was. And
that's what I was talking about earlier.
Oh, yeah. And they're old. And we just want to buy brand new ones. And you're like, no, you don't need. You ended up just giving them rebuild kits for their own peace of mind and save them literally thousands of dollars because they
had 30 taps. So they wanted to buy 30. I probably shouldn't have mentioned that to Todd, but they wanted to buy 30 V10s. And I was like, there's really I hate to talk myself out of a sale like that, but we can actually sell you a rebuild kit. And it's literally 4 pieces.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but again though, that kind of customer service, you build customers for life off that.
You kind of feel bad doing something like that, honestly, because
absolutely,
really nothing wrong with the faucets. They're all stainless steel.
Because you're a good person. If I'd answered the phone, I would have upsold them to 60 faucets. And no, I'm kidding. I can't close a sale. That's why I'm not in sales. You guys have to do all that. But no, I love that story just because it was. I remember you telling me like, I couldn't do it. Like I can't. I mean, they called as warm a lead as possible. They wanted new faucets, but the premise was because they're old, and you're like, that's not a reason. Like, are they still working? Yeah, you do the rebuild. Boom, there you go. Now they're functioning like new. That's the whole reason you spend the money because to CMB, our flagship faucets like the V10 is an investment. It's not like considerably more, but it's an investment. But because it's going to last forever, like that's the whole point of it. The whole point is that you take care of this faucet, it lasts forever. Not, it's 10 years old, I should replace it. Okay, if you money bags, look at old Scrooge McDuck over here swimming.
I know. I tell my wife this all the time. That I'm old, but I just need some replacement parts. And there's no need to replace me completely. And
that's good.
And then the new models just aren't made as well as they used to be.
Yeah, they're working so far. Your neck is getting replaced. That's good, boss.
Yep.
There's probably other parts she wished you'd replace first. But anyway, that's
or at least upgrade. Yeah.
Great. They make pills for that. Kurt, thank you so much for submitting the question. Gentlemen, that is all I have for this week's episode. I sincerely appreciate y'all's time. Todd, I'm looking forward to seeing you opening weekend and doing whiskey only first night.
Yeah. Are you coming? You're coming up a little early to cut some wood, I guess.
That's what I'm told. I was so wood cutting and whiskey. That's my Friday coming up. Anyways, guys,
wood and whiskey. That's what you're all about.
That's how dare you, y'all. I'll see y'all later.
Bye.
And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com, click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or even better, you could be Todd's best friend when you call in at 325-305-6107. You leave yourself a voicemail. I use it on a future episode, and you get yourself a $25 gift card. Have I mentioned that enough on this show? Anyway, thank you to our show sponsors like Muntons Malt, premium grains for a better brew day. If you aren't already brewing with Muntons, give them a try by joining a recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club. For the best hops available online, give our friends at hopsdirect.com a visit and pick up what you need for your next brew day. Also, get a pack of Imperial yeast along with premium recipes from us when you join the Trub Club. Go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and come brew with us. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thanks for listening.